No one is coming. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when the conditions improve. If you are waiting for a savior, a signal, or a shift in luck, you will die waiting, because life does not rescue the man who waits. It rewards the one who decides. For the next few minutes, I will speak plainly. This message is not gentle. It is not soft. It is not here to comfort you. It is here to ignite you. You will either take command of your life or surrender it. There is no middle ground. The longer you wait, the further your purpose drifts from your reach. Listen to me. No one is coming. And that is the best news you've ever heard, because now you begin. The lie did not arrive with a trumpet. It did not declare itself boldly. It crept in silently. It entered through the voices of others, teachers, friends, newspapers, and sometimes even your own family. It told you to wait, to be patient, that one day, if you simply held on, someone or something would step in and save you. The opportunity would arrive. The right moment would knock. Some clearer path would be shown. This is the most dangerous lie a man can believe, because it does not feel like destruction. It feels like comfort. It does not burn. It numbs. But while you wait, the clock does not. While you hesitate, your potential dies quietly in the background. Every man who waits long enough eventually becomes nothing more than a container of unused power. The lie is dependency, the idea that your life is at the mercy of others, that someone owes you a future, that someone should help you before you help yourself. And when a man believes this, even unconsciously, he begins to surrender responsibility for his thought, his movement, his purpose. He becomes a servant to silence, waiting for permission, approval, or rescue. Let me tell you now, without apology or decoration, no one is coming. Not a mentor, not a better government, not a partner with more confidence, not a benefactor with deeper pockets, not a sign from the heavens or a new mood or a sudden surge of motivation. If they come, they will arrive too late. And even if they did, what would they do for you? Speak for you? Move your legs? Think your thoughts? Command your will? A man who is saved from the outside remains a beggar, but a man who saves himself internally becomes a master. Passivity, if tolerated, becomes identity. The longer you wait, the deeper the waiting becomes a part of who you are. A man who sits in hesitation for a season becomes a man who is hesitation. The man who always plans to begin eventually becomes the man who never begins. Thought becomes belief. Belief becomes behavior. And behavior becomes the tomb of potential when it is not fed with action. Let me say it again. The longer you wait, the weaker you become. And I know why you wait. I waited once too. You tell yourself it is wisdom. You say, it's not the right time. You say, I need to think a little more. But thought, when it leads nowhere, is the destroyer of all power. What you call contemplation is often cowardice in disguise. And unless you interrupt that cycle with decision, you will spend your years preparing to begin and never crossing the line. Hope without movement is betrayal. It tells the mind, we are going somewhere, but the feet stay still. And the subconscious, wise, sensitive, and obedient, begins to mistrust your voice. You say you will do something, but you don't. And so your own inner world begins to see you as a liar. And when the mind no longer trusts its master, it no longer obeys his commands. This is how a man dies before he dies. And you see it everywhere. Men who once burned with ideas now mutter about the economy. Men who once had strength now blame their responsibilities. Men who once had vision now talk only of when the time is right. They wait for someone to partner with them, someone to believe in them, someone to validate their dream. But their dream has already died because they waited. You must wake from this trance. In Think and Grow Rich, I wrote, success comes to those who become success conscious. What does that mean? It means that success begins the moment a man refuses to wait for it. It begins when he plants it into his thoughts, waters it with repetition, and feeds it with daily action, before the world agrees with him. The world does not respond to those who wait. It responds to those who act. Look to those who have failed, not in skill, not in intelligence, but in movement. The men who waited for the government to change, the men who waited for permission from their peers, the men who waited until their energy felt just right. They had every intention of beginning, but intention without action is self-delusion, and the graveyard is filled with men who meant well. You are not that man. From this moment on, you declare an end to the waiting. You stop negotiating with the calendar. You stop blaming the season. You stop explaining your delay, and you begin. You begin before you are ready. You move before you are certain. You decide before you know how. You do not need all the answers. You need one thing, to stop waiting and start moving. Because when you begin, even with trembling hands, something awakens in you. The mind shifts, the body rises, and suddenly the very parts of your being that were dormant begin to respond. Your subconscious, once suspicious, now leans forward. And the law of life, the law that serves those who act, begins to provide. Every man who ever built anything of value began without rescue. Carnegie was not handed his empire, he moved for it. Ford was not granted certainty, he manufactured it through decision. Edison did not wait for results. He persisted until the world could no longer deny him. These men were not born with privilege. They were born with awareness that no one was coming, and so they had to go. And so must you. Say this aloud now. Say it with clarity, with force, with full breath. I no longer wait. I decide. I move. Say it again. I no longer wait. I decide. I move. Say it until your old rhythm breaks. Say it until your thoughts obey. Say it until your subconscious begins to believe this man no longer begs, he builds. This is not the beginning of a journey. It is the end of an illusion, the illusion that someone will come, that help is near, that rescue is on its way. No one is coming, and that is your freedom. Because if no one is coming, then you must rise. You must choose. You must take full command. And once you do, you will find what I have always taught, that you were never powerless. You were just passive. You will not be passive again. There is one trait that separates the man who moves mountains from the man who watches them rise in envy. One trait that draws opportunity like iron to a magnet. One trait that every man who has ever created wealth, built strength, or carved out greatness has shared. It is not genius, it is not luck, it is not education, it is decision. And I tell you now, the man who decides cannot be denied. You see, the man who waits for clarity is always outrun by the man who acts from conviction. The man who delays until the weather clears is always passed by the man who walks through the storm. Decision is the dividing line. The man who decides wins, not because the path is easy, but because his mind is already made up. There is no power in potential, no leverage in maybe. The world cannot respond to a man who has not yet decided. The subconscious cannot serve a mind that will not command. If you wonder why results have not appeared, if you question why your vision remains distant, it is because you have not yet declared yourself in absolute terms. Let me be clear. Decision is not a thought. It is not a whisper of preference. It is not an idea you rehearse when you feel inspired. Decision is a command, a mental decree sealed by movement. When you decide, you speak with finality. You act with immediacy. You do not ask again. You do not hesitate. You say, "It shall be done," and then you do it. In Think and Grow Rich, I devoted an entire chapter to this principle, not because it is convenient, but because it is essential. I found through my interviews with over 500 of the most successful men of the age, including Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, that the one shared characteristic among them all was this: they made decisions quickly and changed them slowly, if ever. The unsuccessful man, by contrast, made decisions slowly, and changed them quickly, often under the pressure of the opinions of others. Let me give you an example of how decision shapes history. Henry Ford, the man the world said was uneducated, unqualified, unreasonable, once instructed his engineers to produce an 8-cylinder engine. Every man in his circle, every expert, every authority told him it could not be done. They said the laws of engineering would not permit it. But Ford did not debate. He did not ask again. He simply said, "Produce it anyway." The engineers returned, unsuccessful. He said, "Continue." They returned again, defeated. He said, "Keep going." And because he had decided, not merely hoped, not merely asked, they continued. And eventually the solution was found. Not because of technology, but because of decision. The world bends not to intention, but to command. It yields not to the man who asks, but to the man who declares. Now I must ask you plainly, what decision are you avoiding? What choice have you placed on a shelf for later? What dream have you kept safely in your mind because you are afraid to write it into reality? Until you make that decision and act, you will remain in the limbo of thought. A man who has not decided is not building, he is wandering. And the longer you wander, the more difficult it becomes to choose. Because every day that you delay is a day that indecision strengthens its grip. Confidence is built by movement. Hesitation erodes belief. And soon you begin to feel unqualified for your own vision, not because you lack ability, but because you refuse to decide. Let me tell you how decision works in the subconscious. The mind is listening to you every moment. It waits for clear instruction. And when you give it none, it begins to draw from the past, from fear, from other people's opinions, from outside noise. But when you decide, the mind responds with loyalty. It begins to align your speech, your energy, your opportunities to match the command you have issued. If you say, "I will begin," and you begin, your mind believes you. If you say, "I will become," and you move in the direction of that identity, your mind begins to shift your habits to support it. But if you hesitate, if you second guess, if you speak and then shrink, your mind loses faith in your voice. And a man whose own mind does not trust him will never move with power. You must now become a man whose mind believes him. And the way to do that is by deciding and proving the decision. Not once, not when convenient, but now. Write the decision, say it aloud, and then move. Do not tell anyone, do not explain it, do not ask if it's the right time. Decide and move. And this is how you regain your power, not through affirmation alone, but through the confirmation of action. The man who makes 10 small decisions and honors each one becomes stronger than the man who plans for a decade and never commits to one. Decision breeds motion. Motion breeds clarity. Clarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds momentum. And momentum makes the impossible bend to your will. You do not need to know all the steps. You need to take the first one. And when you take it with full decision, the second becomes clear. Say this aloud now. Let it seal the hesitation that once ruled your mind. I make decisions quickly and firmly. I stand by them. I move with power. Say it again. I make decisions quickly and firmly. I stand by them. I move with power. Let this be the turning point, not the beginning of another plan, not the start of more research, but the end of waiting. What decision must you make today? Write it now. Speak it aloud. Move, because the man who decides cannot be denied. Not by delay, not by doubt, not by fear, not by the world. He commands, and then he becomes. There is no more dangerous belief than the belief that something outside of you will come and finish what you have failed to begin, that someone else will solve what you refuse to face, that another man's strength will make up for your lack of decision. This idea that you can keep one foot in and the other out, that you can walk toward purpose while still protecting an exit, is death to power. You must burn the bridge. The bridge is the backup plan, the emotional escape, the rational excuse, the place in the back of your mind that says, if this does not work, I can always return. And as long as that bridge stands, you will never give your full energy. You will never move with full faith. You will never summon the full force of what lies in you, because your subconscious, ever loyal to the path of least resistance, will not give you its best if it knows you plan to retreat. You must understand the mind's nature. It does not pour its fire into an aim that might be abandoned. It does not sharpen its instinct, awaken its faith, release its energy for a man who keeps an exit open. The subconscious waits for total commitment before it delivers total power. This is why history remembers the men who burned the bridge, the men who, having stepped onto the battlefield of purpose, turned around and set fire to the ship that brought them there. It is more than metaphor, it is law, because only the man with no way back is forced to go forward, and only forward builds the future. I once wrote, "Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible." But I tell you now, faith does not show itself where dependence still lives. If you are still hoping someone might step in, still imagining that circumstances will shift, still whispering to yourself that maybe you will try again next season, then you have not yet decided, you are not yet serious, and the mind, yours and the world's, knows it. Let me remind you of one of history's clearest examples. When Hernán Cortés landed with his men on the shores of conquest, he gave them one command: burn the ships. He knew the truth. As long as the ships remained, the men could dream of escape. As long as they could return, they would never give their all. But once the ships were gone, once the way back had been destroyed, there was only one path: forward. And with that level of necessity, those men succeeded, not because of superiority, but because of commitment. You may not be on a battlefield, but your hesitation is just as deadly. You have dreams you've delayed, decisions you've postponed, visions you've lowered because you feared what would happen if you failed. But failure is not your danger. Retreat is. The danger is not in boldness. The danger is in the quiet voice of the old self saying, you can still go back. You must now speak a new command to your mind. There is no going back. You must burn the mental bridge that has allowed you to live with one foot in purpose and the other in fear. And you must do it today, before the idea of escape gains more roots, before the mind begins to weave more excuses. You must speak this clearly and with force: I will not return. Why? Because until you believe no one is coming, you will not meet the man who was already here, the man inside you, the one who never needed saving, the one who only needed permission to move. Dependency is a slow poison. It numbs you first. Then it softens your edge. Then it seduces you into weakness by telling you, you don't need to give everything. You have time. Someone will help you. But let me tell you, the only help that is real is the help you summon from within. The only answer that will last is the one you build by your own hands. You are not too weak. You are not too late. You are not missing anything except decision. Burn the bridge. Eliminate the option to delay. Refuse the idea of a safe retreat. Speak aloud to your own mind and command it to forget the path behind. Your aim is not behind you. Your comfort is not the goal. Your past is not your master. You are not here to survive. You are here to advance. If you must write it, then write it. I will not go back. If you must say it 100 times today, then say it. I am no longer the man who retreats. If you must tell the world or your habits or your calendar, then tell them, I am burning the bridge. There is no other way but forward. Let me be precise. This is what you must now do. Identify the fallback, the place you go mentally or physically when fear rises. Remove it, delete it, block the path, end the conversation, cut the tie. Declare aloud, this path is no longer mine. Write down your chief aim again and say, this is the only direction I now serve. Act in boldness immediately to prove the bridge is gone. Do not be afraid of what you've burned. Be afraid of what you won't build if you don't. The men who have become legends, builders, leaders, they were not without fear. They were simply without retreat. Say this with me now. Let it rise in your chest until it burns away the last remnant of hesitation. I burn the bridge, I do not wait. I move forward and never turn back. Again. I burn the bridge, I do not wait. I move forward and never turn back. Let this be the vow that separates you from the man you once were. Let this be the fire that closes the exit forever. From this day forward, there is only one direction. Forward. Faith without action is not faith at all. It is fantasy, a pleasant phrase, a hollow echo. True belief, faith in its purest, most commanding form, is never still. It is not a feeling you carry. It is a fire that moves you. It is an inner authority that refuses to stand idle. If you say you believe and yet you do not move, then you lie to yourself, because faith proves itself in motion. You do not test your belief in silence. You test it in steps, in motion, in effort, in risk. You test it by speaking when your voice shakes, by acting when no one claps, by beginning before you're ready. And every man who has ever conquered mediocrity has learned this one truth. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must move your way into it. The man who acts, even when his plan is imperfect, begins to build momentum, and momentum, once it awakens, begins to silence the inner critic. The questions disappear. The hesitation fades. The doubt, once so loud, now bows before your movement, because the mind follows motion, and action, even a single small step, is the most powerful antidote to fear ever given to man. I have told you already that no one is coming, that you must burn the bridge. That decision is the line between drifting and becoming. But what now? What does the man who has decided do? He acts. He initiates the first move. He does not wait for permission. He does not gather more opinions. He does not hesitate until the mood strikes him. He steps, not because the ground is certain, but because he has chosen to walk. This is the law. Faith must be moved to become real. Speak belief, yes. Affirm your chief aim, yes. But then you must do something to honor it. Even the smallest action taken in the name of your vision builds the internal structure of that vision in your subconscious mind. Without action, belief weakens. It loses muscle. It becomes brittle. But with every movement, belief gains mass. Andrew Carnegie understood this deeply. I remember clearly how he studied the men around him, not merely for their intellect, not merely for their charm, but for their ability to take immediate initiative. He did not trust the man who had ideas and let them sit. He did not promote the man who waited to be told what to do. He honored the man who saw what needed to be done and moved before he was asked. That is why he trusted Charles M. Schwab. Schwab, a young man without title, without wealth, without societal advantage, made himself indispensable not through talk, but through unshakable initiative. If there was a need, he filled it. If there was a decision, he made it. If there was a delay, he pressed forward. He did not ask whether it was his role. He made it his role. And because he moved without waiting, he gained the trust of one of the most powerful men of his age and rose from steelworker to president of U.S. Steel. Initiative speaks louder than ambition. You may have great plans. You may see yourself in grand roles. But if you have not moved, then you are still in the waiting room of life, where nothing is built and time eats potential like rust eats steel. I want you to see a picture now. Imagine a man sitting at a train station, luggage packed, eyes hopeful, dressed for arrival. But hours pass, days pass, no train comes. And do you know why? Because he was supposed to lay the tracks himself. The station was never meant to deliver him to destiny. It was meant to reveal to him that he had to build the way forward with his own hands. Are you sitting in that station? Are you still waiting for the train when the tools are already in front of you? The first move must come from you, not because it will produce instant results, but because it proves to your mind, your body, your spirit, and your Creator that you are serious, that you will not drift, that your belief is not performance but power. This is your new ritual. You speak your aim aloud. You declare your belief. You take one action today before you sleep that proves it. You write the paragraph, you make the call, you walk into the office, you finish the task, you step toward the goal, not to complete it all, but to show your mind that you are moving now. No longer waiting, no longer planning without execution. And every time you do this, something deeper happens. Your subconscious, once skeptical, begins to respond. It begins to trust you. And when the subconscious trusts its master, it opens doors the conscious mind could never find. You must become the man who is known for one thing above all else. He acts. He does not speak endlessly of goals. He does not drown in details. He moves. And through motion, he becomes. Say this aloud now. Make it the mental anchor for this part of your journey. Every move I make in faith becomes proof that I do not depend. I decide. Again. Every move I make in faith becomes proof that I do not depend. I decide. Let this be the death of hesitation. Let this be the rise of movement. Let this be the hour that you finally begin to prove your belief by action. Not just once, not just today, but every day until the world obeys your decision. You are not sitting at a train station anymore. You are laying tracks. You are moving forward, and you will not stop. You are training your mind at every moment, whether you realize it or not. Every word you speak, every action you take, every movement you delay sends a message inward. And there is one part of you that is always listening, always recording, always responding, your subconscious mind. It does not argue, it does not evaluate, it obeys, and it obeys not what you intend, but what you repeat. The subconscious becomes passive if its master is passive. A mind that hears hesitation daily will begin to expect it. A will that is overridden by delay soon forgets how to decide. When you speak of goals but fail to act, your subconscious begins to believe that your voice is decoration, not direction. And once it concludes that your declarations carry no weight, it stops responding altogether. Most men do not understand this. They repeat affirmations. They speak of greatness. They write dreams in journals, but their behavior betrays their speech. They say, I will, but do not move. They say, I am capable, but act like servants to fear. And the subconscious, watching all, records this contradiction. It thinks, this man does not mean what he says, and slowly it tunes him out. If your mind does not obey you, it is not because you are broken, it is because you have trained it not to obey. You have allowed inconsistency to become your rhythm, and the subconscious, ever loyal to your dominant habits, has adjusted its loyalty accordingly. But here is the power. Just as you trained it into passivity, you can train it back into obedience, and it begins with action. Action is the voice of command. It is the proof that your thought is not entertainment. It is law. When the subconscious sees you speak and then sees you move, it begins to remember. It begins to respect you. It begins to respond. Each time you act in alignment with your declared purpose, your subconscious installs that action into your automatic behavior. You begin to become the man who no longer needs to feel ready, because movement is now your nature. You begin to feel strange not acting, because you've rewired your identity around decisiveness. This is the power of the law of cosmic habit force. It governs your mind as gravity governs the earth. It states clearly and without emotion, what you do repeatedly becomes automatic. If you act with fear, you become fear-driven. If you wait, you become delay-prone. If you hesitate, your future begins to slow. But if you act daily in decision, if you feed the mind forward motion, then action becomes reflex, and success becomes rhythm. Let me explain it plainly. Every time you delay, the subconscious records that delay. Every time you act, the subconscious records obedience. After enough repetitions, your internal system begins to move before you speak. You are no longer trying to take action, you simply do. This is what I mean when I say the subconscious obeys the man who acts, not the man who intends, not the man who studies, not the man who speaks with enthusiasm but lacks execution. The man who is obeyed by his mind is the man who gives it proof, daily. You are always programming your own identity. Every moment of hesitation teaches the mind to expect uncertainty. Every moment of movement teaches it to trust your direction. You are not a victim of mood. You are a result of momentum. This is why the most powerful men you will ever observe do not act slowly. They do not linger in uncertainty. They do not waver when decision has already been made. They know the law. Their minds will obey what is enforced, not what is spoken in passing. They speak little and do much, and their subconscious rewards them with clarity, focus, creativity, and energy on demand. You can have the same. You do not need to feel stronger. You need to act with more decisiveness. The strength will follow, the mind will follow, the results will follow. Let me give you this formula. Speak belief. This is the verbal trigger. Say what you are, say what you demand, act immediately. Even one small move in alignment installs the belief deeper. Repeat without exception. Build rhythm, build trust, build command. Protect the loop. Do not break the pattern. Each broken day weakens obedience. The subconscious loves order. It thrives on routine. Once you train it to expect motion, it will not allow you to remain still. This is how discipline becomes freedom. This is how belief becomes identity. You stop needing force because you have become the man who acts. Let me show you how this worked in the lives of men I studied. Edison failed over 10,000 times in his pursuit of the electric light. Most men would have stopped at 10, but Edison had trained his mind to obey his commands. When he declared, "I will discover it," his subconscious moved his energy toward solutions, even in failure. Why? Because he had built a mind that expected obedience. Charles Schwab, too, was known for his speed. His ability to decide, to move, to act even before others had completed their sentences. This was not instinct. It was training. It was repetition. It was the result of feeding the subconscious daily action without contradiction. You now must do the same. Do not wait for perfection. Do not ask, "What if I fail?" Ask instead, "What does my subconscious believe about me today?" And then act in such a way that the answer is, "He is a man who commands and I obey." Say this aloud now. Let it be your code for this new discipline. I speak belief. I act with decision. My subconscious obeys the man I am becoming. Again. I speak belief. I act with decision. My subconscious obeys the man I am becoming. This is how you change the rhythm. Not through willpower, through repetition. You do not need motivation. You need alignment. You do not need more time. You need unbroken confirmation. You do not need someone to tell you what to do. You need to begin proving that you are the kind of man your mind wants to obey. Speak, act, repeat, build the command. You are not at war with your subconscious. You are its master, and it is ready to serve if you are ready to lead. A man is not defeated when his plans fail. He is not broken by resistance or buried by delay. No, defeat begins when he gives voice to excuses. The moment he opens his mouth to justify inaction, to explain away delay, to rationalize fear, he has handed over his power. Because every excuse spoken is not a reason, it is a confession of bondage. And excuses, if spoken long enough, will turn the strongest mind into a willing slave. You do not need chains on your wrists to be imprisoned. Speak the words, "I don't have time," often enough, and your mind will believe you are a man without agency. Say, "I'm too tired," enough times, and fatigue will become your master. Repeat, It's not the right season, and the subconscious will turn your energy off like a dying flame. I must say it plainly because no one else will. Excuses are the language of slaves, not because life is cruel, but because the man who speaks them has already agreed to be owned by something lesser than himself. You were not born to serve limitations, you were born to command. And if your lips speak anything less than authority, you are undoing every affirmation you have tried to plant. Excuses are not merely thoughts, they are instructions, and your subconscious, ever loyal, will obey them with precision. It will begin to filter out opportunity. It will reduce your energy. It will sabotage your momentum. Why? Because you told it to. You said, I can't. You said, I'll try later. You said, it's too hard. And your inner mind, hearing these commands repeated with feeling, said, understood. But let me tell you something you must never forget. You can't plant excuses and harvest results. The man who desires fruit must not plant weeds. If you want strength, you must speak strength. If you want direction, you must declare it. If you want momentum, you must move even when you do not feel ready. The field does not yield to the lazy. The law does not obey the passive. And your dream will not come to the man who keeps excusing himself from its demands. I have interviewed the greatest men of industry. I have walked beside those who turned nothing into empires. And I can tell you this, they did not wait for conditions to be right. Edison did not wait for approval. Rockefeller did not wait for resources. Lincoln did not wait for the world to be fair. They moved without permission. They acted without applause. They built without excuse. And so must you. There is only one way to kill the voice of limitation, and that is with action repeated under resistance. You must learn the discipline of erasing every excuse with one phrase, I do it anyway. I'm tired, I do it anyway. I'm unsure, I do it anyway. It's not the perfect time, I do it anyway. I don't know the whole plan, I do it anyway. No one is watching, I do it anyway. Because the man who speaks, I do it anyway, becomes the man who no longer negotiates with weakness. He becomes the man whose subconscious begins to expect movement, even in the face of resistance. And once that rhythm is built, once the body and the mind expect discipline as the standard, then results begin to appear. You do not need sympathy. You need standards. You do not need relief. You need repetition. You do not need permission. You need to move. Let me ask you now, how many times today have you excused yourself from action? How many times this week have you explained away a delay? How many times this year have you justified being less than the man you promised yourself you'd be? It ends now. You must become ruthless with your own language. If the words I can't, I'm not ready, I'll try later, or maybe exist anywhere in your speech, they must be removed, not reduced, erased. Because these are not opinions, they are mental shackles. You are a builder, and builders do not apologize for doing what must be done. They do not seek understanding for their pace. They do not retreat into reason when the work feels heavy. They rise in decision. Let me give you this truth plainly. You will always have a reason to quit. You will always have something to point to, a schedule, a setback, a storm. But the men who rise are not the men with perfect circumstances. They are the men who stopped allowing excuses to speak on their behalf. And your breakthrough will not come when conditions change. It will come the moment you say, enough. I will no longer defend the enemy of my own progress. Say this aloud. Speak it as your new code. I do not speak limitation. I speak power. I do not retreat into reason. I rise in decision. Say it again. I do not speak limitation. I speak power. I do not retreat into reason. I rise in decision. Every time an excuse appears, and it will, you will speak this. You will speak it not as a question, but as a command. And then you will act. Not when you feel like it, but because you said you would. This is not harshness. This is freedom. Because the man who eliminates his excuses finds he never needed anything else. He did not need more time. He did not need a clearer plan. He did not need better motivation. He only needed to refuse to delay again. You have the voice. You have the thought. You have the aim. Now erase every word that contradicts it. Move. The man who waits to be applauded before he acts is already defeated. He does not seek progress. He seeks approval. And approval is a trap. If your action depends on another man's praise, you are not free. You are still a servant, still waiting for someone else to say, "Now you may move." There is no greatness in waiting to be seen. The greatest strides in history were made in silence. The boldest decisions were made in solitude. The world does not crown the man who seeks applause. It follows the man who moves without it. Do not mistake encouragement for necessity. Encouragement is a blessing, but it must never become your requirement. The moment you need to be noticed, you have surrendered your direction. Controlled attention is the ability to hold your purpose in mind, unmoved by distraction, untouched by noise. It is one of the most powerful habits a man can build, and it can only be built in silence. If your faith dies in silence, it was never faith. If your decision fades without praise, it was not real decision. What you build alone will sustain you in storms. What you build for approval will vanish with it. You are not alone when you act alone. You are aligned. You are direct. You are free. Isolation is not your enemy. It is your forge. It is where your character is refined without interference. Abraham Lincoln spent most of his life misunderstood. He lost elections. He was mocked. He led a nation through war without the comfort of praise, but he followed a deeper voice, his own. Lincoln did not act because it was popular. He acted because it was right. And the men who shape history always move first in the dark, long before the world lights a path for them. You must learn to act without audience. You must learn to move without permission. You must learn to build in the dark, because what is forged in isolation becomes unshakable when exposed to the world. If you need encouragement before you begin, you will always be waiting. If you need support before you act, you will always doubt. But when you choose to act without applause, you begin to discover real power. Let the world stay silent. Let your phone stay quiet. Let your inbox stay empty. You do not require noise. You require decision. And decision does not shout. It whispers. And the trained man listens. Do not ask, "Does anyone see me?" Ask, "Do I see my aim clearly?" That is all that matters. If your aim is clear, your environment is irrelevant. If your decision is real, your timeline is yours alone. The desire to be seen is a hidden form of weakness. It looks noble. It sounds innocent. But it reveals a mind still attached to approval. And no man can build lasting success while chained to the cheers of others. You must become the man who moves unseen, the man who builds in silence, the man whose reward is not noise but progress, the man who can wake up, go to work, move with fire, and sleep in peace, whether praised or not. Most men will wait their whole lives to be noticed, and while they wait, others act, others build, others win. Not because they were better, but because they no longer needed to be told they were good enough. Say this aloud. I do not wait to be supported. I support myself. I do not wait to be seen. I move in the dark. Again. I do not wait to be supported. I support myself. I do not wait to be seen. I move in the dark. This must become your internal rhythm. This must become your mental armor, because when you can act without applause, you will no longer need it. And when you no longer need it, it will often appear. But you will not wait for it, because your aim is higher than attention. You are no longer here to be seen. You are here to become. You are now the man who builds in silence. You are now the man who rises in solitude. And you are now the man who does not need noise to move. You have waited long enough. You have hoped. You have hesitated. You have whispered affirmations and begged for motivation. But the true work is not in waiting for belief to visit you. It is in building the identity that no longer needs rescue. The man who wins in life is not the man who is helped the most. He is the man who leads himself. You cannot beg your way into power. You cannot borrow belief. You cannot rent confidence. These things must be built brick by brick with word, thought, repetition, and above all, action. You do not inherit identity, you install it. You do not drift into strength, you choose it. And if you are not choosing it, you are becoming what the world chooses for you. The great secret I have repeated through every principle I have taught is this: you become what you think about most, spoken with faith and acted upon without retreat. This is not suggestion. It is not motivation. It is law, a law as firm and inescapable as gravity. You have spoken your aim. You have acted through resistance. You have declared your belief. But now comes the final turning point. You must speak who you are, not who you were, not who others say you are, not who you hope to become, who you now choose to be. Write this now. Take pen and paper. Do not delay. Do not prepare. Write one sentence and let that sentence become your new internal command. I am the type of man who... Do not write your past. Write your standard. Write your chosen nature. Write what your future demands of you. Examples: I am the type of man who finishes what he starts. I am the type of man who acts before he feels ready. I am the type of man who speaks belief, moves in silence, and does not stop. I am the type of man who leads himself. This is not positive thinking. This is mental architecture. You are no longer affirming your desire. You are now commanding your identity. Say your sentence aloud, then say it again, then write it until it is memorized, then act from it until your actions no longer require effort. This is how you become the man whose belief is not shaken, because it is no longer a belief, it is a program. The subconscious does not care who you used to be. It does not care how many times you have failed. It cares only what you repeat and how consistently you obey what you say. The man who speaks one identity but lives another is a traitor to himself. But the man who repeats one identity and acts on it, even when the old voice whispers, becomes unshakable. This is your chance to become him. Review your past, but do so without excuse. Do not blame, do not explain, do not defend the delays, the doubts, the detours. Face them. Name them, and then declare, that man is no longer in charge. You do not heal through memory. You rebuild through choice. And your greatest power is this: you can choose who you are every day without permission from anyone. You do not need to consult your emotions. You do not need applause. You do not need perfect clarity. You need one thing: to declare your identity and to act in accordance with it. I once wrote, any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. The same is true of identity. The man you install is the man who begins to dominate your behavior. Not immediately, but daily. Not with noise, but with rhythm. You may say, but I don't feel like that man yet. That is because you have not yet repeated him enough. Identity is not confirmed by feelings. It is confirmed by repetition, by decision, by alignment. And when your thoughts, your speech, and your movement agree, identity takes root. Let me give you your instruction. Write your I am the type of man who statement. Say it aloud in the morning after you speak your chief aim. Repeat it silently throughout the day. Prove it with action. Refuse to contradict it in speech or excuse. Track how often you act in alignment. This is how you train your mind to obey itself. You do not force it. You do not beg. You lead it with clear, repeated identity backed by aligned behavior. The man who obeys himself is the most dangerous man in any room, not because he is loud, but because he does not flinch. He does not second guess. He moves as one who has been trained internally. You are now becoming that man. Say this final affirmation with the tone of one who no longer begs for belief. I am the man who does not wait. I act, I finish, I lead, I building, I obey the voice I have chosen. Say it again. I am the man who does not wait. I act, I finish, I lead, I building, I obey the voice I have chosen. This is no longer about becoming. This is about being. You are the man who commands, and your mind is now prepared to follow. This is the hour of confrontation, the final strike, the moment when you either return to what you were or rise as who you were meant to become. All the repetition, all the writing, all the discipline, the declarations, the decisions, they have led to this, the realization that no one is coming because you have already arrived. You searched, you waited, you hoped for help, for change, for the moment to feel perfect, for someone to take notice, for life to lean in your favor. But the waiting is over. The mirage has vanished. The illusion is dead. You are the one you've been waiting for. No mentor will save you. No circumstance will rescue you. No applause will carry you. And you don't need them to, because the voice you were hoping to hear has already begun to speak from within. That voice was always there. It was simply buried beneath delay, beneath excuses, beneath the lie of dependency. You are not here to be reminded again. You are here to reclaim ownership, to decide once and for all that your life, your direction, your destiny belongs to you, not to chance, not to the past, not to the praise of others, but to your own hand, your own thought, your own decision. This is the birth of radical ownership, the hour where you step across the line and lead yourself. You no longer repeat what others have spoken into your mind. You no longer consult the environment before acting. You no longer seek conditions. You command them. You are no longer the man who wonders what's next. You are what's next. But I must warn you, if you go back, if you drift, if you delay, if you rehearse the language of someday, you will become what you were. You will return to the quiet suffering of the man who knows he was meant for more but never chose to claim it. You will feel that fire slowly dim, not because it was extinguished, but because you refused to fan it. And I know you're tempted, even now. Tempted to take this speech and shelve it beside others. Tempted to let this new identity live in your notebook, but not in your schedule. Tempted to wait for another sign, another feeling, another round of affirmation. But I tell you, this is your final warning. If you do not act today, this very moment, the old rhythm will return. You will wake tomorrow and begin again at the same level of belief you fought so hard to escape. You will drift back into routine. You will remember the words, but you will lose the fire. And your life will once again reflect the man who waits, not the man who builds. But if you act, if you declare, "This is who I am now," and you live it, then everything changes. Not because the world bends, but because you no longer flinch. Not because the road clears, but because you no longer wait for it to. Not because the applause begins, but because you have decided not to need it. You are the one. You are the builder. You are the standard. You are the leader your mind has been waiting to follow. The thoughts are yours. The habits are yours. The belief is yours. And now the results are yours to claim. This is the man who speaks identity and acts on it. Does not ask, he commands. Does not wait, he moves. Does not delay, he finishes. Does not retreat, he advances. There is no Savior coming, because the Savior has already been built through decision, through persistence, through radical self-command. From this day forward, you do not explain your vision, you enforce it. You do not hope for progress, you create it. You do not ask the world who you are, you tell it. This is your line in the sand, this is your day of return, not to the past, but to the throne. Say this aloud, not as another affirmation, but as a final vow. No one is coming because I have arrived. I lead myself. I command my day. I move without rescue. I become what I decide. Again, no one is coming because I have arrived. I lead myself. I command my day. I move without rescue. I become what I decide. You have heard my voice, but more importantly, you have heard yours. That voice will not go silent now. That voice will lead. You no longer drift. You no longer wait. You no longer fear. You become because you have chosen.